Hi, I'm Meg Mackenzie. I am an ultra runner for On, and I'm hosting a very exciting trip with my close friend, coach, and mentor, Mareli Kruger.
I'm a consciousness coach. I am an ICF PCC, which is just a certification. And this is what I will be doing. So as Meg will be looking after bodies and minds, I will be looking after spirit and emotions, I guess.
I'll just jump into some questions that the audience may want to hear about the trip. So, Mareli, can you tell us some of the obstacles that we all put in our way, maybe unknowingly, that keep us from living the life that we want and the dreams that we want?
The four that I see most commonly in coaching, and that would be old beliefs. So old beliefs getting in the way, getting between us and our goal, us and our dreams. I would say another big one, especially for women, is pleasing others before self. And then scattered energy. So when we aren't or don't show up as powerful as we can be when our energy is scattered. And the last one I would call commitment glitches. These would be the big ones, the biggest obstacles that I have come across in coaching.
What do you mean by commitment glitches?
Good one. So it can be not fully committing to something. It can be not being in action of that which we have committed to. It can be not being in integrity of that which we want, and that's that which we committed to. Basically, just not doing the thing that we need to be doing to serve our goals. And on a being level, not being the person our dreams require us to be. One of the big things that we do as human beings is we procrastinate. This is the big one. We almost all of us do it. We know that we do it. Some of us know why. We know a lot about it, but yet we still do it.
Oh, yeah.
So this includes a phenomenon that we call acrasia. And that means acting against our better judgment.
It's kind of like a self-sabotage.
Yes. Super interesting. And there are actually ways and techniques to master that, to hack into that.
Amazing. Teach me, please. Well, I know you've tried. So these all sound very linked. The scattered energy and the living with a bit of self-sabotage. And so working on them in a separate way or all together, all at once, they all link together.
100%. There definitely would be an overlap. So you can imagine that if you are serving others before yourself, that would scatter your energy naturally. So one is actually an example of the other, and they are absolutely linked. And when we talk about procrastination, it might take on the form of giving others' agendas priority before your own.
Like cleaning the house before going running obsessively.
Not
speaking from experience, just saying.
Exactly. Just one more episode. Yeah. So what really helps here, one of the things that really helps is that has helped me is drawing a distinction between my current self and my future self. And already when I learned that, there was a little light that went off for me. Distinguishing and drawing a distinction between the two, that it is just my current self that wants to watch one more episode, or that is now aware of that I am cleaning as an action of procrastination. What my future self actually wants is, and what my future self wants me to be doing is. And then the realization that only my current self can serve what my future self wants. And it's actually such sacred gift that you can give yourself. And then you can work with James Clear's action line. That's another way. And what it basically comes down to is the principle, as you might know, that sometimes motivation comes after you've started something.
Yes.
That is what we talk about when we
Mood
talk.
follows action, kind of.
Exactly. Moving the action line.
I have been working with you for, it feels like a decade. It might be a little less.
No, I think it's more.
Maybe more. Time flies. But I've learned something in the few minutes of our conversation already. And this is how it always is.
Then I'm doing my job.
Well, it's super interesting because I don't have a problem with motivation personally.
Yeah.
So I do find myself making excuses for getting out the door, even though it's something that I love to do. I still do find myself stopping myself.
Right.
And thinking already when you said about the distinction of current and future, I can see how it would be so beneficial for future self to stop cleaning immediately and clean when I get back.
As a gift to future self, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what that does to our power, because I could feel you feeling it. So what it does to just how we show up and how much more powerfully we show up when we just practice that daily, when we practice, the integrity principle that which is doing what you said you would do by the time you said you would do it. When we exercise that as a muscle, literally as a muscle, eventually we can get to that mode where easily and with lightness, our thoughts, our words, and our actions just become one. They flow as one. And it's not hard anymore for us to constantly back ourselves as a powerful creator. And that makes you show up powerfully in anything that you think about, that you consider, that you commit to.
Less resistance and more flow, I'm feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't we all need that? As to lovers of language and of the words that we use, is there something in the words that we say out loud and to ourselves that can make a difference in this area?
Absolutely. And not just make a difference for me, that's the absolute key, is tapping into and finding the hack to the language that we use externally and internally. So whether externally or internally, just feel for yourself into the difference between words like I wish, fill in the blank, or I'll try, or I want, or I want to, fill in all of those blanks. And feel into the difference when you say, I will, I promise, I commit. That there is an actual and real as well as energetic difference. So to become aware of the language that we use, and that language that we use is the first step to actually creating that which we want to achieve.
As you say it, I'm thinking, I wish I could just get enough sleep and get to bed early so that I can wake up and have a good run in the morning. As opposed to, I promise I will be in bed by 9 to wake up and have a wonderful run in the morning.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Exactly that. So we can carry on wishing, and that is the realm that it will carry on living in. It will carry on living in the realm of wishing. And if we want to bring it into reality, what we need to do is take action. And that action, the first step required is to commit, exactly as you said. So to make the commitment and then to honor that commitment.
And even using words such as I commit to fill in the blank.
100%. 100%. Even if it is to yourself. And I want to say even especially if it is to yourself. That is where we we often slip, where we put others, as I said, others' priorities above our own, where you might be in integrity with others, keeping our promises to others, and with ourselves, that then comes second. So when we want something for ourselves, to make it a commitment, to not just keep on wishing, keep on wanting, but to make it a commitment in language, and then to serve that in action.
First and foremost is to identify when we are slipping into that, because probably right in the beginning it would be hard to know when we are slipping into serving others in the first place.
Or when we fall unconscious. That's a very good point. To know when we fall unconscious. And that kind of ties in with the old programs, right? Old programs, old beliefs.
That we've been taught, that we've been fed.
So the mode that we wake up into in the morning is autopilot, is unconsciousness. And if we don't choose consciously, that is the mode that we stay in. And what happens when we're in that mode is we do the same old things in the same old ways. We might get lucky and get inspired by a podcast or something and find a new thing to do, but we will be doing it in the same old way. So what we can do is to pause and to consciously choose. We can ask ourselves a powerful and empowering open-ended question. And in that way, one of the things I say is that if you can't remember the exact moment in time that you chose something, that you decided something, it kind of happened unconsciously.
You didn't choose it.
So you can make it conscious by pausing and making a choice, asking yourself a powerful question. What would my future self do? My future self want me to do right now? And taking that moment and making that conscious choice, that allows you to access that magic portal to consciousness. And consciousness is also just a different word for the most conducive environment for you to realize your dreams.
I love it so much. I'm not a morning person, and not to make this all about mornings or me, but I tend to wake up grumpy most mornings, and I then try to get out of my grumpiness by putting on a podcast. So you nailed it. I need to switch off my podcast and consciously choose to get ungrumpy instead of it just kind of sort of happening throughout the morning at some stage.
Yeah, and look, it doesn't have to be heavy, all right? It doesn't have to feel like discipline that is heavy. You can look at it with lightness. You can look at it with what will serve me. And you can start off just stretching a little. So if it supports you and if it serves you to start off with the podcast, then just give yourself a time limit. For example, and make sure that you're stretching that 20%. So as long as the choice is conscious, you're allowed to walk away with the same thing. You know, everything.
It doesn't have to be different every single day.
If you put everything on the table, if you add everything to the buffet and you end up choosing the same thing when you walk away, that's okay. As long as you chose it consciously and you didn't like just muddle into it or fall into it out of habit or unconsciously or on autopilot.
I'll let you know how the podcasting goes. So I would love to change tack a little bit and talk a little about imposter syndrome. I would love to delve into this topic because I think it's something that so many humans, especially women, experience so much without knowing it and while feeling very alone in it.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why it is that so many women experience this?
It is, for me, it's a fascinating subject and I can talk about it all day. I find research on imposter syndrome and my coaching on imposter syndrome just growing and growing. And you're 100% right in that it's something that so many people and so many women experience, and yet we don't talk about it. And we don't talk about it that we are ourselves experiencing it. The reason is very simple, really. And that is, if I am feeling like an imposter, or if I'm holding the subconscious conviction that I'm an imposter, the last thing that I'm going to want to do is admit it by talking to someone about it.
Because it makes it stronger.
But when we do, once we open up, we discover that more than 70% of working adults experience imposter syndrome. And amongst women, especially high-performing women, high-achieving women, that percentage climbs to 85%.
That is crazy. Why the high-performing woman?
Again, fascinating. So just as a side note, some of the celebrities, or, you know, self-admitted celebrities that suffer from, because sometimes it is a suffering, imposter syndrome, include Albert Einstein, Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, Tom Hanks. Brilliant people, brilliant minds, and yet they suffer from this.
I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be here.
Exactly. I'm going to be found out. That's the big one. So just one of the sources, let me touch on just one of the sources, and that is a belief as innocent as there's always room for improvement. But what happens when we over-identify with that one is it keeps us looking for what's missing. Yes. It keeps us looking for what is lacking. It keeps us in the mode of, okay, something wasn't good enough. I just need to find what it was. It keeps us in, even if things go very well, even if we do well, the first thing that pops up is, I got lucky. Or,
yes. I can 100% identify with this.
Or if someone else worked as hard as I did, they could do the same. Or if I worked harder, I could have done better.
All of the above.
Exactly. So what that does is it informs our context. It informs the lens through which we look and experience, and it keeps us in a loop. So imposter goes, shouldn't be here, don't deserve this, will be found out. And then what it does is it looks for evidence. As I said, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? What was missing? What wasn't good enough? Finds the evidence, feeds the imposter. Again, looks for evidence and feeds. And that's the loop. That's the cycle.
Confirmation bias.
Exactly. Okay. Instead, we can go, all right, I hear the imposter chatter in the background. I hear you, I see you. And what I consciously choose to do right now is focus on and look for what went right. What did I do well? What successes did I have? What can I build on? What can I replicate? What can I duplicate? And immediately what that does is it gives you an exit out of that circle. It gives you a new detour.
I see.
So that you can get new possibilities, new opportunities, instead of old evidence, confirmation bias.
As an athlete, I would be looking, we are taught always to look for that 1% improvement, those marginal gains, work harder, try harder, etc. And those beliefs can be detrimental in the end.
In coaching, we don't play the game of making wrong. So we're not going to sit here and say
don't have those.
that there aren't any gifts available from it.
Mm.
The first step would be to acknowledge the gifts that we can get. So, for example, I have lived a life and am living a life with not good enough. And the gifts that I get from that is that I will submit work of the highest quality with confidence. So there are gifts available from that. We can celebrate that gift and then choose our focus. So you can look for the gains, look for the 1%. Absolutely. And if you, in finding or looking for the 1%, make yourself wrong, or look at or focus on the things that you didn't do or that weren't good enough,
then it's just a double whammy.
You're not finding the blocks to build with. You're not finding the strengths to build on. That's why, in coaching, I will always ask you what lessons and what can you replicate and what can you duplicate.
Yes. And to give yourself that credit that you have done the things that deserve to be duplicated and replicated again.
Absolutely.
That worked. Let's do that again.
Absolutely. Taking a moment for acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And not a yes, but, because the imposter syndrome is very yes, but.
I came third, yes, but I should have come second.
Yeah, I stuck to my race plan, but.
Yeah. So we've chatted quite a bit about some of the limiting beliefs and obstacles that people might put in their way. But are there more things that are specific to women in this area?
For me, definitely one of the things that I encounter with women more is pleasing others before self. Why I address that with groups and with individual clients is because the impact of it is that it scatters your energy. So it keeps you from showing up powerfully. So in our conditioning as women, it might be in line for you with your values. It might feel in line and even be in line for you to live your life from family first, or first the kids and then I can fill in the blank. But what happens when we over-identify with the root belief of that, which is that selfless service for women is the highest virtue, as an ancient core belief. If we over-identify with that, is what it opens up is us losing ourselves in the needs of others. That's when that happens. And we have women living lives that are unfulfilled, that are not in balance, that are in discord. So they're experiencing this lack of fulfillment, but they've not given themselves the opportunity to take a moment and identify the needs, the wishes, the desires that they need fulfilled. Mm-hmm. So they have a sense of unfulfillment, but they don't know where it's coming from. They haven't decided. And what that scattered energy does is it feels like, or let me start there, what scattered energy feels like is being pulled in different directions, trying different things, hoping that one thing will work, fishing in the dark. It feels as if your power is diluted. And what aligned energy feels like, I know you know what this feels like, and that is being aligned with yourself. Being aligned means you get pulled into the future by that which you chose. You get pulled into the future by your purpose. And that is clear once you've taken the time to make that clear. Once you've answered the questions, who is this self of mine? What is important to her? What does she stand for? What is her purpose? What is her why? What does she absolutely not stand for?
Yeah.
Answering all of these questions is like clearing away the smoke so that you can show up clearly, powerfully, and unmess with the bull.
Does it become easier then once you have figured this out to live in alignment, or does it stay that you keep having to search and sift through?
Clarity is an absolute gift that you can give yourself. Like I said, taking time and giving yourself the opportunity, whether you work with a coach or not, but answering those questions for yourself is a gift of clarity. And alignment to that is what makes you show up powerfully. Once you've done that, once you've created the clarity for yourself, then you have something to align to. Else, when you have the experience of your power being diluted, you often don't know what it's being diluted by. You have the sense of being pulled in different directions, but you don't have clarity on the direction that you want to go in. So once you have answered these questions for yourself, you have almost kind of a checklist. Like, does this fit with my purpose? Does this fit with my values? Does it align? So what am I aligning with? And is these options that I have before me, which aligns with me best?
And this is what you taught me and what we got to through many, many months and years of coaching that have led me to where I live and what I do and what I stand for and all of those things today. So I can vouch for it being the most powerful and wonderful thing you can do for yourself.